Did you hear about the latest security breach? I get asked this question all the time, followed by what can we do to protect ourselves? Well, I'm going to be covering this in the top 10 things that you need to know about to stay safe in this cyber world that we live in, so stick around. Hi, I'm Daniel from Twin Bytes, and on my YouTube channel here I make weekly videos on how-tos for the computer and how to stay safe and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in staying in the know, consider subscribing. When I get asked this question every time, I can't help but laugh, because who really cares what the details are around the security breach? Now, I know there's going to be a bunch of security experts that are going to go ranting in the comments, so go ahead, go nuts below here. But if you hear me out here, when you really think about it, there are constantly security threats out there all the time, and the news only talks about once in a while when there's some really big ones that are happening. So unless you're a bank or the government or the military, you're just a small business or even a personal user just using it for your own personal use at home. So what are you going to do? With the banks, military, and government and so on, they have security experts working 24/7 around the clock that do nothing but eat, sleep, and breathe security. So they're all over it. So what do you do if you're a small business or a personal user? On this video, I'm going to show you now the top 10 things that you can do yourself, or you can be hiring somebody to do this for you. Number one is Windows updates, or patch management as we call it in the IT industry. One of the things that we do is staying on top of the Windows updates, and this is one of the biggest things. There's vulnerabilities constantly happening. So just quickly, without this video getting too long, to understand what the vulnerabilities are, hackers exploit vulnerabilities in software so that they can gain access to your machine and then do whatever it is that they want to do. So with Windows updates, you're patching the vulnerabilities in the software to patch the holes or these vulnerabilities that were found. So when you're installing Windows updates, it's patching vulnerabilities, but there's also feature updates sometimes and other nice to have tools and things. But the security part of it is very important. So that is one of the easiest things that you need to be staying on top of, and don't be ignorant thinking that they're automatic. I do have a video up here I'll link to, so you can check that out and see how you can make sure your Windows updates are working. Number two is similar, it's software updates. So with the Windows updates, you've got your Microsoft products included usually in the Windows updates or Microsoft updates. But other software you'll have, like Google Chrome is a very popular one. It updates automatically, or at least it's supposed to. In the past, you'd have to manually go through and update these programs, but a lot of them now will update automatically, but you need to check them and see, is it up to date? If you go in the help section under about, then you can see what's the current version, and you may be surprised where it says that it's found an update and it's currently installing, which at least it's good. You check it and you see it's installing now, but don't just blindly assume they're updating. So with all the different software programs that you have installed on a computer, they should be updated regularly. And if they're old and outdated and not supported anymore, where they won't get updates, you need to either remove them if you don't use them anymore, or find an alternative replacement for that type of software. Number three is antivirus and firewall. You need to have some kind of antivirus installed on your computer, but don't be like most people and assume that it's working for you. It's supposed to be automatically updating and scanning and doing real-time protection, but I've seen many cases where somebody brings their computer in or calls me to look at it and find out that the antivirus either expired or it just disabled. It wasn't even there. They didn't even see it running. And they're not looking to see is it still running. So you got to make sure that it's it's there, it's showing down in the system tray by your time that it's active. But even then, that doesn't mean it's working. It doesn't mean it's up to date. It doesn't mean it did its latest scan. You'd have to open it up and dive into it a bit more and see, is it still active and the subscription is still good, all these kind of things. One of the things we do is we offer a managed antivirus protection. So during the making of this video, it's the Avast product. It used to be AVG that got bought out by Avast, and now it's the Avast Business Cloud Care, which I'll link to down in the description below if you're interested in having managed antivirus firewall protection, so that way you're not just assuming that it's working. Number 4 is having a good password. And there's 2 main parts to this, at least that I'm thinking of. One of them is having a really good password that is unique. So you can't just have one password that you use for everything. Some people will just use the same password for everything, or have one password that's the same for all the different social media sites, another password that's all the same for other business type sites, and then maybe something else for another category of sites, and then you've got your bank, which should be completely separate again. It shouldn't be the same as anything. But the type of passwords that you choose, they definitely should be unique for each site. Also, when creating a password, you want to make sure that it's long. I've seen short ones. A lot of websites will say that it has to be a minimum of 8 characters, a letter, a number, a symbol, uppercase, lowercase. They'll tell you what the requirements are, minimum requirements for them to have a password. But when looking at how easily a password can get hacked, usually they're either guessing it, doing a dictionary attack, or it's a brute force attack. So the dictionary attacks still can take a long time, and brute force as well. They have to scan through a series of things before they can get the password. So unless they guess your password because it's too easy and it's your pet's name with the year that you got it or something simple like that, and if you have one of those passwords, you better change it immediately. But having a longer password, you can have something that's easy to remember. It doesn't have to be a complicated set of letters, numbers, and symbols. Having something long that is a sentence you'll remember, but it's also convoluted that it doesn't make sense at all. Like you can say, the green chicken jumped over the purple moon at 4:15. Now, if you could recite back what I just said, that means it's easy enough to remember. But it's also very complicated that's not going to get hacked. Well, everything can be hacked, but it wouldn't be hacked as easily as a short password that just has some random letters and numbers because it is very short and wouldn't take as long to go through. Number 5 is password management. So one of the things with password management is to change your passwords annually, or at least on some kind of a regular basis. Some companies have security policies in place that they force you to change your computer password every month or even every week. And it seems very extreme, but it depends on what kind of information you're protecting. So for a small business or a home user, most people set up a password. Not only is it very basic and weak, but it never gets changed. So document what your password is, and beside it write down when was the last time you changed it. Also, you don't want to store your passwords in a text file or a Word document on your computer. If your computer ever got hacked, the hacker is going to download your files, and if they see a password file, especially if you call it passwords, that just is so easy to find. And once they get in there, now they have the passwords to all your sites. Another thing is for your banking, don't have your bank passwords saved. I've seen people do that, and they had the password, not only the bank card number, which you shouldn't do either, but the bank card and the password saved for the bank. And even just getting up, leaving the computer, and leaving that open on the screen, logged in. I could talk a long time about that, but protect your bank accounts. Have a different password for your bank account. Don't have it saved Number 6 is two-factor authentication, or short formed as 2FA. So a lot of websites are offering this now, especially all your social media sites, Gmail, we got LinkedIn, Facebook, all these things. They're using two-factor authentication. And I've made a few videos that I can link to here. If you check out my playlist for security, I go through how to set up and configure your two-factor authentication on all these different platforms, or at least many of them. Also with two-factor authentication, you have the option of getting a text message or using an app. Some of them only have the option of text message, but now I think a lot of them are up to date and they're allowing you to use an app instead of a text message. And it's a lot better to use an app versus texting. I have another video about that, which I don't think I've put up yet, but the texting, if somebody hacked your phone, they cloned it, they could be receiving a copy of every text message you get. But if you're using an app for the two-factor, then they have to have possession of your physical phone to get the code as that second step of logging in. Number 7 is backups. You gotta have a backup, because if something goes sideways, you get hacked, your data is deleted or encrypted with some kind of ransomware, then you need to be backing up either to a USB drive, which you should unplug after each backup, or a NAS server, which is connected on your network, but it's not plugged directly into the computer. Or you can have an online backup, which is even better because it's off-site, stored somewhere else, so your place could even be physically broken into and the computer stolen, and you wouldn't lose your data because it's up in the cloud. But with that said, online backups are not to get confused with online storage. I've made a video I'll link to up here as well that talks about the difference between a online backup versus online storage. Number 8 is you got to consider other computers on your network. So whether it's a business or you're at home and your kids have a computer on the same network, you're connected to the same internet. It doesn't matter if you're cabled or wireless, or one of you's cabled, the other's wireless, you're still on the same network. So all computers should be doing all the things that we mentioned here so far. Number 9 is other devices on your network. So with smart home, smart business, we've got thermostats that are connected to your wireless, that the thermostat company, whoever you're paying for your hydro and air conditioning, they could be monitoring that and making adjustments for you, but it also allows you to adjust the settings through your phone, your security systems connected through there, any kind of smart device that connects, smoke detectors, they're all on the network. They all have software that runs in them that allow it to do these things, and no one would ever think of checking those devices for software updates, or how do you even go about doing that. I'm not going to get into the details of that in this video because that goes way beyond the scope of this video, but it's something else that you got to look at. How do I check this and how do I update them? One quick story is someone's network actually got hacked through their fish tank. Think about that one. Finally, number 10 is user habits. So the way users are interacting with the computer, surfing the web, looking at emails, you'll get a link in an email that might come at the perfect timing saying you're expecting a package. So click here to track your package or see it, or thanks for your order, here's an invoice, or HR departments getting resumes is a huge one. I see viruses constantly being detected from some of my clients that are clicking on links for resumes. Also doing a Google search and blindly trusting the first thing that comes up and clicking on the link there. You could be opening up a virus, or you could be calling a hacker into your computer. I've seen people that were looking for a support from a company, for example, a HP printer, and they're trying to call HP support. So they'll do a Google search for HP support number. Instead of going to hp.com and getting the number there, they do a Google search and blindly trust the first result that comes up. There's a phone number right there so conveniently. So they call the number and they say, sure, we can help. Let's get in your computer. And then now they have access to your computer. They can install ransomware, tracking software, whatever it is that they want to do. Now you've let a hacker into your computer and you let them in. So it's one thing that we talked about up to this point of protecting yourself to avoid the hacker from coming in. But this is one of those things where you are letting them in. So you need to be careful on how you use the internet and make sure that all your staff knows and go through proper training. We have other tools and things that we can offer that help to track and train your staff on being safe with clicking on links. So if it's something you're interested in, we can definitely talk about that. And for personal use at home, all you can do is try and work with the kids and hope that they're going to be safer online. There are other products you can buy. There's routers that are, they have parental controls built in. You can set up a second router. So there's all kinds of complicated things that you can do that go way beyond the scope of this video, but they can help separate the network from the personal stuff having the kids, and if you're working from home, you can separate those two networks, which is something I did as well working from home. So this whole thing is about being proactive. Don't wait until you hear about the next security breach in the news before you start asking questions about what I can do. You need to do it now before it happens. So think about the airport example. It's a pain in the butt going through an airport and checking through security, so many security checks, baggage check, all this stuff. It would be a lot more convenient if you could just park your car and walk straight onto the plane. But if it's easy for you to do that, it's easy for a terrorist to also just walk onto the plane. So the harder things are for you, the harder it is for the hackers, and so your protection is stronger. So you need to do as much as you can justify doing or what you can afford based on what it is that you're protecting. So again, a personal user won't pay as much money as a small business, who won't pay as much money as the bank, who probably still won't invest quite as much as the government in the military. So there's various levels. How much money are you willing to spend on your security? And there's a lot of things that you can do yourself. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already to stay tuned for future videos on this. Thanks so much guys for watching, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions and such. All right, thanks so much. Bye for now.